Alright, today we're discussing Eusebius and Empire, Constructing Church and Rome in the Ecclesiastical History by James Corke-Webster. And so this was his PhD thesis that became his book. And this book was recommended by Dr. Richard Carrier, who's a ancient history scholar and promoter of the mythicist interpretation of Christianity. And I first encountered Eusebius via Acharya S, also known as D.M. Murdock, and her book, The Christ Conspiracy, and then her follow-up book, Christ in Egypt. And so this book here completely corroborates the research of Dorothy M. Murdock, and especially her final tome, Christ in Egypt. That was her most audacious effort in an academic tome that's heavily referenced. And she basically argued that Christianity was really based out of Egyptian religion, and that the Theraputae, the Theraputae, were the basis for what were claimed to be the original Christians. And so if we look at what James Corke-Webster documents, he says that the only problem was that the Theraputae were a Jewish group, and so Eusebius therefore went to great lengths to claim them as Christian. Eusebius carefully edited Philo's account in order to Christianize its protagonists. And the Theraputae were based near Alexandria to give weight of antiquity to his Alexandrian brand of intellectual Christianity. Eusebius was striving to establish a thread of continuity. The history describes the Theraputae using first-person pronouns and concludes that they live the self-same manner of life preserved to this point by us alone. And then he says that most telling, they were, he says, the first to employ the allegorical method of exegesis. And by carefully placing this account after a story about Mark in the Gospel and a link statement of Eusebius' own composition that Mark first founded churches in Egypt, Eusebius gave his own brand of Christianity apostolic priority. For Eusebius's reader, the highly intellectual Christianity of Alexandria and Caesarea was simply Christianity now and at its beginning. So now if we go down to the footnotes, it says here, Eusebius Eusebius modified Philo's text to make it refer more clearly to an allegorical reading of Scripture, rather than simply the contemplation of familiar objects by the soul. I note too that Philo does not ascribe to the Theraputae precedence in this practice. This was Eusebius's addition. In so doing, he claimed allegorical exegesis as an originally Christian reading practice, rather than one inherited from non-Christian predecessors. So, what we have here is this emphasis of not just anecdotes, but allegory, and as this book details over and over, Eusebius was basically a brown noser. This is published by Cambridge University Press. This is 2019. But I think he uses the term pyrogyric, which means basically an apology. It was Eusebius's way of brown nosing. Essentially, that's what they call it. The fancy word is pyrogyric, which I had never read but really encountered. And so Eusebius was writing for the Greek elite of the Roman Empire, and essentially arguing that Christianity should be the new religion for the Roman imperial elite, and that the Romans weren't the problem, but the Jews were the problem. So it was kind of like a blame the victim kind of thing. And he says, well, you can't say he was anti-Semitic, but I don't know, that doesn't seem to and then he keeps emphasizing, like Eusebius directly says, he promotes an allegorical reading of history. And so right there, you have to question the whole. Oh, and the other thing was that Eusebius was heavily influenced by philosophy, by Platonic philosophy, and so he's continuing the tradition of Clement and Origen, and also Ignatius. And what they're trying to argue is that you have to have the proper lineage from Jesus and the family of Jesus, meaning James and Simeon, the cousin, and that they were the first bishops or whatever. But on the other hand, he's saying that the Theraputae were the first Christians, but he blatantly was lying about Philo. And Philo, the whole point of Philo was to unify Platonic philosophy with Judaism. And then, whereas the Theraputae were more of a esoteric healing, they were a group of healers, and they used fasting apparently. But the thing is that